My name is Estela Saez Vilanova, and I come from a 500 people town. My town is very special. It's in the foothills of the Pyrenees, leading to the Mediterranean Sea and very, very close to the French border. I started when I was 17, and I never thought I would ever be a jewelry maker. I made a small course in ceramics, and I just realized that my hands were working by themselves. I asked my father at that time, I said, "Father, I think I don't want to study anymore. I want to do fine arts, and I want to do something with my hands." So he mentioned the possibility to go and do jewelry. And I said, "Jewelry? Yes, why not?" He said, "There is a school in Barcelona which is called Massana. Maybe you could go there and study jewelry." And then suddenly I go to Massana and I start meeting all these artists that they are working with plastic and with wood and all kinds of materials and acrylics. And then it's when I said, well, there is other ways also to make jewelry. At that time, the Massana Price would give you the opportunity to study abroad, to make an exchange program, and I decided to go to Germany. It comes this amazing possibility to go and work for Ruth Peters. Ruth Peters is an incredible jeweler, an extraordinary person that has this kind of programs as trainings. And I would say that was my best master ever in my life, because that was really, really hands-on. That was really, really real life, as having a reference in what it is to be an artistic jeweler. In Holland, I started a body of work which was called Terra. Terra was coming from this moment that I left my roots and I left my town behind, and it was about working with earth from Spain and sand from Holland. So it was the symbiosis of help towards one to another, of now suddenly being in this country and discovering all the pleasures of the materials and the different ways of treating them. And some of these pieces, they won the Talente Prize in Munich, and so it gave me some inspiration and some energy to say, "You're doing well, Stella, you're going well." And so from there I developed also a collection which was called Goodbye Nest, which was also very important to me, because it was the moment that I have the sensation that it's the moment that I'm saying bye-bye to my roots, but at the same time acknowledging all the good that my roots has given me, which has given me even the wings to develop my work, to go abroad, to be strong, and to leave everything behind and concentrate in my work. With this collection, I work a little bit different. I started by modeling with clay, and from the clay I started making nests and nests and nests and nests. And so I said, okay, it's too easy for me with my hands, so now I need a challenge, which would be probably to change the material, to change position. And I decided to work with the metal because I'm deeply in love with silver. Silver is what gives me my feminine part. I would say I have this need. And I started to work with the silver as I would work with the clay. So I made it very thin with the rolling mill. And then I would start bending it with my hands, and I started soldering with gold. It was something missing at this point. There was, okay, I had the forms, I had the metal, the material, but there was something missing, which was color. So I started to draw and draw and draw, and suddenly the blue and the yellows, they started to appear. The blue is the sky that I was missing in Holland, and the sun, it was the yellow, which I was also missing it in Holland. So what I do is what I am is what I do. So at that point, in this part of the world, I needed these colors. I take the decision to make a master. I go to Idar Oberstein, which is something like 4 hours far from Holland, and it could give me the possibility to start to keep on working in my things in Holland, and meanwhile taking my masters. And I approach it in a way a little bit like a kind of a bureaucratic thing that I had to do, but I didn't realize that Idar Oberstein entered into my veins. I was going back to these stones and they were kind of like knocking on my shoulder. Tak, tak, Stella, tak, tak, Stella. And I was like, no, I'm not going to work with you, dear stone. After 1.5 years, I took my first stone and I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And I start cutting them and start making them a little bit like if I would work with silver. I was making them thin and thin and thin. And it was something which was not normally associated to work with the stones. Stones are something heavy, and so people normally cut them very small and then they make the facets. So for me, I said, no ways, I want to be able to construct, I want to be able that they are light. So how do I achieve that point? What I do is I take the stone, I cut them in slices, I make them very thin, and then start making angles and put them all together. So with the lightness of the stone, I achieved the bigger volume. And that was something kind of revolutionary, I would say. Maybe there was this moment of my life that I'm traveling all over the world. I could be today in South Africa, and tomorrow I could be in Hong Kong, and the day after I could be in the States, and the day after I could be in Mexico. It was crazy. I was going through too many stages within this collection, so I put the silver together with the stones. There was a moment the silver was getting a path and then the stones another one. And somehow I understood that the silver pieces were more like the core and the stone pieces, they were the shell. Fragility, of course you will say these pieces are super fragile. Yes, indeed. But this is something that I do mention, that the pieces are fragile as life itself. Maybe Days is a collection which is inspired by the time I spent in the Middle East. I was approached in 2013 to build up a school in Cairo, a first school of a kind, a jewelry school. And during these 3 years, the intensity of living in that part of the world was extremely hard and beautiful at the same time. And there I work with silver again. The silver is textured with Egyptian papyrus. And then I have also some stones that they are at in the three-dimensional pieces, and they are tourmalines, which are green. And also because I decided to choose tourmalines because green is very rare to find in Egypt. Only in the oases or nearby the Nile River you can find green. So it was this moment to add within this country of dust and sand a piece of life. The two-dimensional pieces were based on photography. During the time I was in the Middle East, I took many photographs, and then I worked with them. And I took the shadows of the pieces and I convert them in jewelry pieces. Most of them, or almost all of them, are necklaces, are pendants. And the material is brass, gold-plated, as it would be the way that in Egypt, people who has no means, they have their jewelry. As a maker myself, I do not spend all the time in the workshop. I also do projects abroad. And it is the way because I spend many hours alone when I make my collections, and the moment I go outside of the workshop and I do my teaching or I do a project such as the school in Egypt, or for instance now that I'm working as an arts and craft consultant for the UNESCO to assess the feasibility of certain kind of projects like an art center or others, is the moment that I breathe. I breathe in the sense that I am in the real world. I get to know the people, I get to know the culture, and they are also a learning moment. Jewelry can be something precious, something very personal, can be worn in many ways. It can be a brooch, it can be a necklace, but only the fact of something that comes directly from the heart. It is an extension of the body, it's an extension of the soul. So for me here, wearability is not the essential thing, it is how you approach the concept of jewelry. When I make my exhibitions, they are all special moments. But what I really think is important is to put the pieces in context. So meaning that every time I make a presentation of a new work, I try to make a kind of a scenario to put the pieces on. The whole Stella is in every piece. I put every single part of me, as if it would be the first one and the last one, because you never know about life. Life can come and go as a hint of a second. Solitude is a kind of a friend of mine. I would say to work alone in the workshop when you are for 3 months making one piece, when you are for sometimes from 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening, you feel very lonely. But it's these moments of loneliness that you can look inside of yourself. I'm a mother and I have 2 children, and they are also pieces of jewelry. You have to work them out in the same way as they would be pieces of jewelry. To help with my experience to other people, mainly women, because in these last days I'm working a lot with women, to be able to flourish from themselves this belief and this self-esteem and this self-trust that they can change their life and they can change things through their hands and through their work. I consider myself a very, very lucky person to have found the meaning and the reason of being in this life through my jewelry. Jewelry has been always accompanying me. I would say I would like to keep on working in the same way I do, to produce as much as nature and with equal abundance.